Hello everyone, my name is Komakech Camila and with me I have Amanya Dalvin, Asita Rodney and Joachim, and we are a team from Bishop Cypriano Kihangire Senior Secondary School.
We are affirming the motion that states that this House believes that academic work and research should be published under open access models rather than traditional copyright protections. In this debate, we expect to be enticed, to entice, and to learn a lot, and we expect a win. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Hope Senior School Vera, and it's a privilege for us to be here. This is Team A, and by names are Nyazi Abdul, Adira Peace, Hussein Mavamuno, and Kakai Saramasi.
This house believes that academic work and research should be published under open access model rather than traditional copyright protection. And we are the negators of the motion, and we are hoping to be the victories of the motion tonight. Thank you.
House rules. Each speaker has 5 minutes. The first and last minutes are protected. The judge will ring a bell to signal the protected time. The bell will ring continuously after 5 minutes.
So, what is the purpose of education research? Is it to be locked up behind paywalls, accessible by only elite institutions or wealthy nations? Or is it to expand human understanding, ignite innovation, and solve global challenges? We shall find this out at the end of this debate. This House believes that academic work and research should be published under access models rather than traditional copyright protections. Panel, allow me to characterize this motion and begin with the key terms. So when you talk about academic work and research, we actually mean books, articles produced by institutions and researchers, open access. This is a model of where academic work is made more freely accessible to all without payment or under certain limitations. So types of open access, we are only going to base on diamond open access. Anything from that, we shan't be held accountable. So when you talk about diamond open access, this is when the institution that requires the information actually pays for it. Examples, I can give the Makerere University Journal, where actually Makerere, the university, pays for the information, the African Journal Online, Uganda Scholastic Digital Library. So how does actually this work? So now the open access model works in a way that information is made accessible to everyone without any charge. And this works in a way that information is put, or actually information is allowed to be put to the public, but actually the information that before it's being put is actually vetted and to find out if the information is really viable or is not misleading in any way. So actually open access journals have a peer review rejection, as it is more than actually the acceptance levels, because the topmost open access journals like eLife have actually their acceptance below 30%, which actually really justifies that information is vetted before being put to the public. Okay, so now when you talk about traditional copyright protections, this actually refers to the legal or the automatically granted rights granted to creators of original works. For example, there are books, academic articles, and only after they have been put into tangible works. So examples, we can talk about MK, Fountain, and New Vision. So this works in a way that actually the authors are actually given rights after they have published their book. They're actually given control over it, to whom it's going to be given out to, and to how it's going to be used, reproduced, and monetized. So we shall set our parameter as academic works and research that is publicly funded. So it should be made freely accessible to maximize society benefit, facilitate innovation, and promote quality sustainability. So this actually will link up to the Sustainable Development Goals that were made in 2015 that stated as the 4th development goal is to provide quality education. Quality education in a way that it is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality information to promote long life learning opportunities for all. And this actually will promote the Sustainable Development Goals, because education will be provided for all those in disadvantaged areas. Let's say I am a student of Naka and I'm actually versing against maybe students of King's College Budo, and all of us are going to end up sitting for the same paper, right? So now the stakeholders in this, actually what we talk about the stakeholders in this debate are the academic researchers, the university and the research institutions, and the students and the general public, and even the government and the NGOs. So when we talk about how this is affected, so now if open access is actually denied and actually made into a way of traditional copyright, these people will be at disadvantage now that actually information will be limited. The information will be limited to them. They won't actually receive the information that is required. So in this, I kindly pull the debate to my side, and I think that I would rather prefer information to be published under open access models rather than traditional copyright. Thank you.
Cipriano, this house believes that academic research should be published under open access models rather than traditional copyright protections. First, I'll start by talking about what the models they bring about. They are talking about the diamond, but first they talk about the diamond, and then we also have the hybrid. It's part of your models, that it's part of the open access models, but then this require a subscription. There has to be a subscription journal whereby the publishers allow authors to pay to actually make these individual articles open access. So literally there is some kind of pay that is incurred to these open access models. So literally we as a team negators, we should rather make this academic research rather traditional copyright protections other than it being under open access, because first of all, in copyright protections, we take time. The individual authors take time to research. They invest in their time, and they invest in their work. They invest in their money. And why should then there be? Why should these people actually who are getting the research receive it for free, and they're not even incurring any pay? How is it going to be beneficial to these authors who are actually bringing in the information? We talk about copyright protections. First of all, copyright, it's a right by law to be the entity which determines who may publish, copy and distribute a piece of writing, music, picture or other work of authorship. That's the definition we have for copyright. They come here, they talk about how actually they were even going against themselves by saying that actually by saying open access, they offer peer review, the authors have control over the books. There's also limitations to education, but we are here coming as the team negators. We show you the challenges that open access has. First of all, they have already given out our points as their points, which is why they do not even deserve to win this debate. First, we are going to show you the challenge. We are going to show you the challenge of open access. One, open access models, they shift costs from the readers to the authors, which may disadvantage the unfunded researchers. And two, I'm going to give you one of the points that I have for open access. One, it protects intellectual property, whereby copyright ensures that researchers retain control over their work, which point they also came here to give as their point of open access. Copyright ensures that researchers retain control over their work, whereby it limits plagiarism, whereby unauthorized use of this work that they have come about with is actually going to be limited, whereby we do not have people going against people's books, because first of all, in open access, I can get information from what you have put in on the net, and then I edit some part of it and then I put it in my work. That is not allowed in copyright, which is why we want to actually make this academic research copyright protected other than it being openly accessed. Because one, we see that in open access, when we make this research actually copyright protected, one, we are going to see that people are going to take responsibilities for their research. Because one, when you see in open access, actually people even have different ideas on what your information is. But here we see that in copyright, there's peer review. The point that they come here to talk about as their point, there's peer review, whereby this work, before you put it out on the net, before it's actually published, the institutions actually go through it to see whether it's actually valid to be put out in the public or not, which is why we want this academic research to be put in copyright protections, to be put in traditional copyright protections rather than it being openly accessible to the students. Because we feel like if it's put in copyright protections, it's better, because we are going to protect the intellectual property of these specific authors. And I think I beg to raise my case.
This is the High School Crossfire. We'll be back in a minute. This is the High School Crossfire. Welcome back.
So, imagine a world where everyone, regardless of their economic status, location, has free and immediate access to knowledge. Now, notice that on our side of the house, that is what we're advocating for. So, let me go straight to what Team Opposition has to offer us in this debate. Now, number one, you do have to notice that they're actually catering for the rich institutions dominating research. Number two, they actually have to notice that notion whereby they actually think that researchers, they actually are advocating for researchers paying to access basic science. And number three, they're actually advocating for the fact that students in poor regions actually lack learning materials. Henceforth, being copyright, it literally means that you're actually making it worse than it already is. So moving forward, what do they actually come and give us in this debate, right? So they come and say that actually copyright actually has its advantages, of which literally we do not understand, we do not actually mean to interpret that in that particular way. But then what do they say in their debate? Now, number one, they talk about how individual authors take time to research their particular journals, right? But then you have to notice that on our side of the house, if you base on our characterization from the first speech, we are literally saying that, you know what, our open access is platinum open access, which literally describes the fact that the author is not actually going to pay for anything, or let me say any article processing fee. It is actually the institution or the government to take upon that responsibility to pay for the article, to pay for the publishing, or maybe say to cater for all that and whatnot. So notice on our side of the house, we are clearly stating the fact that neither the author or the researcher have any monetary responsibility in this particular case, right? So back to our characterization, we do actually have to notice that, number one, we are actually noticing the problem as knowledge imbalance worldwide. So you do have to notice that in that particular case of it, that's why we are advocating for open access models, in that we believe that is literally increasing all the accessibility that these people have to information, which Team Negative does not vie for in this debate, simply because they are advocating for copyright. Now, going back to our case, now, number one, we talk about how, firstly, it is going to democratize knowledge. Number two, it is going to promote collaboration. And number three, there is actually more responsibility and public funding. Now, back to my case, democratization of knowledge. Now, it's like turning academic knowledge from a gated museum into a global marketplace of ideas, in that it removes financial and institutional barriers to learning. In that, what we talk about is to democratize knowledge. Literally means that everyone has access to that particular piece of information, in that it is not going to be discriminative of whether you are poor or rich. It is literally going to notice the fact that you are actually seeking for information and you're going to learn from it. Now, look at this. Countries in Uganda and others with limited access to paid journals, open access can increase visibility by up to 80%, as institutional access is often unaffordable. Notice it from UNESCO 2021 Global Open Science Report. Now, notice again, we talk about how there is collaboration, in that once Team Negative comes and tells me that actually, you know what, these are authors actually put in their own hard-earned work, you have to notice that in our particular side of the house, we are clearly advocating for the fact that in open access, people actually come together and actually combine minds, actually improve on the quality of information that is going to be released. And notice that to the point that they actually talk about how, you know what, this information can sometimes be false. We are actually advocating for vetting of this information before it's actually put into those particular websites. That is why we are giving you renowned institutions that actually uptake open access, such as Macquarie University journals, African journals, which actually adapts to vetting information from all those particular researchers or people who access that information, so as they can actually add it on their particular platforms, right? So notice on our side of the house, that problem has been solved. Now, number three, we talk about how there is more responsibility and public funding. Relate this to social contract theory, right? Whereby I am paying for a service, in that even if it is actually the government, or let me say an institution, sponsoring my research, and I am going to give them the research, right? People, that funding actually comes from the people who actually contribute to taxes, or let me say other fees. Notice that because of that, we believe that people do not deserve to actually pay for what they have already paid for. So you notice that when government actually collects these taxes and actually pays the researchers to actually go and do research, and the reports actually come back, you notice that it's actually deserving that it should be free. So therefore, a world with open access, the world where knowledge becomes a shared resource, not a luxury. Therefore, ideas are spread and empowering the minds that will shape the future. Thank you.
I begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. So, what side affirmative clearly claims is that open access looks like an institution or any other body paying for this particular journals so that someone can access it. But really, is that open access? Open access is only when someone is able to access information like freely. At a point in time where an institution has to take an extra step to pay for these particular journals, it means it's no longer open access. It means these particular things are covered by traditional copyright laws, because copyright laws clearly state that at the end of the day there must be some payment for someone to achieve what they want, or there must be some payment for someone at the end of the day to look into that research or to get that context from any particular journal. Okay, anyways, they claim that the reason as to why they feel like open access is better because they want to attain quality education, but over 15% of open journals do not meet COP standards, Committee on Published Ethics guidelines, according to UNESCO the 27th of June 2023. So if they claim that they want to maximize quality, they want to maximize quality education, it means that anything that is published under open access, it means it doesn't go through the vital means for it to be considered that, you know what, this is something that we should give credit. The reason as to why we are having a lot of increase in open access is because it's no longer quality, but it's no longer quality, but it's in quantity. People are putting it there in much more numbers, but it is not quality. Like, they're putting in irrelevant information, but at the end of the day they are claiming that that is the quality education they want to get. Okay, anyways, the reason as to why most schools are able to perform better than the others is because at a certain point in time these schools are able to purchase books that are categorized under copyright protection, and the others can't like largely access those books. That's why certain schools can perform better than other schools. So the schools take an extra step to sort of like pay for these particular books, and then their learners are able to take in what is content or what is quality. So at the end of the day, if they say these books that are all over the country or that are largely open access, they are taken.
So, do you notice the fact that like these schools who actually access copyright books are more privileged than the others, and yet they are subjected to the same
Yes,
curriculum?
they are more privileged. That's why we are taking on traditional copyright laws, because we are seeing something quality or standard that is coming out of it. With open access, these books are largely accessed, but what in the end we get things that are substandard. That's why most schools are able to perform more than other schools. I think you get what I'm trying to say. Anyways, let's go into our arguments. Aside negative, the reason as why we feel like we are going for copyright laws. One, they protect intellectual property. At a point in time where someone has to access these particular things, they have to pay for this. They have to pay for these particular journals so that they're able to access them. On the other hand, it gives the author an upper hand to sort of like an incentive to sort of like open or to sort of like do more research and publish more quality stuff than what is put in open access, more quality stuff that is put in copyright laws. Secondly, the traditional copyright laws ensures quality through accountability. How does it come about? They are peer review models, whereby the peer review models are funded by these particular bodies, not an individual. So in open access, someone can decide to pay for these peer review models, and then it can be corrupted. Even if my information is not quality, it can go through. But with traditional copyright laws, they are able to like have peer reviews and look into my documents and then credit them or either ban them. That's how we are able to like sort of achieve things like standards. Then on principle, the principle of authoritarian control, authors should have the right to control how their intellectual property is used, modified, and shared. So at a point in time where someone picks out a quote from a book and gives it and uses it in their own journals, and it is not like it is diluted, it means they are spoiling my profession, they are spoiling my identity. On the other hand, I'm not benefiting. I beg to submit.
This is the High School Crossfire. We'll be back in a minute. This is the High School Crossfire. Welcome back.
I'm a young, enthusiastic, brilliant student from a financially humble family, living in Nakapiripiriti village, going to Nakapiripiriti Secondary School. But at the end of the day, I'm going to face the same examinations from those top-notch schools. I'm going to be marked by the same standards by those top-notch schools. Think of that panel. Now, what do we have from their team? Well, they come and say that in our world, we're going to have information which is actually very wrong. Information from our side is so null. Information from our side is so shallow, but it's in quantity, but not quality. I'll engage that panel. They come and say that from their side, they're going to have the best of information because of this clear review and all those things, but I'll also still engage it. Now, they come and say that in their side, you know what, the authors or the content creators are going to keep up that sole responsibility of their books, of their information and all that. But then, what did we actually expect them to do? Panel. We expected their team negative, to come and present a case that actually solves down the problem which I've actually stated. We actually expected them to show us how their world of copyright is best suited for the urgency of the information that is actually there right now. And we also expected them to show us how their standard looks like and how it best fits, or rather how it beats the information which is actually needed to the current age. But then let me engage them regardless of them doing that. Now, on the point that, they're saying that on our side we don't have vetting mechanisms, look at the fact that in our side we come and talk about Diamond open access, where we're going to have these institutions, public institutions like Makerere University journals and all that we talked about in first speech. These are organizations which have money. These are organizations which have top-notch people to make this research and all that. So we believe that in our side we have more of rather a vetting process or a vetting committee which is of better sort of quality compared to theirs, where they're having one author who is going to actually try his level best, vet it, and go through all those procedures. But then we believe that on the other side we present it better. So on that point of clash of standard information, I think that we win on it. Panel. Also looking at the fact that, they're talking about things like, the copywriter is going to keep up with their sole responsibility of their information and all that. But then what's the use of that? I see that actually even restricting information. I believe that with the problem at hand, which is actually the imbalance of knowledge, this knowledge should actually be spread more than you just restricting the information to yourself. So at the end of it all, they still do not solve the problem in this debate. Panel. I wanted to actually invite you to a world which you actually present. I wanted to actually invite you to which world you'd rather prefer. Look at a world where we are having traditional copyright protections. It is a world where knowledge is actually kept behind barriers. Why? I am the author and I want the information all to myself. So what's the use of that? Is the information actually going to be spread? They don't actually talk about that. Now, in their world, in our world rather, we're looking at a world of creativity and innovation. Why? Because the information is well vetted and it's a lot in abundance. So at the end of it all, we're going to have things like, we are going to have things like innovation and creativity, just as we see Dr. Ogwang, who invented COVID-19, because at that point in time where we had COVID-19, we had all of this information on open access. That's why you see that's why you see countries like Uganda had to come up with vaccines, which is something that we do not see on their side. Because in their side, they see those who are actually having the money being able to access this information at a high cost and being the ones who actually win on it. Pano. On our side, we see inclusivity and equality. Why? Because me who is studying in Nakapiripiriti, I'm going to first the same papers like those who are studying King's College Budo, those top-notch schools. But then, if in our world we're having open access, I also have the same access to the same information like them. I also have the same access to the same sort of like broad view of information that just like them. So at the end of it all, it's going to be equal, right? Because I'm going to face the same paper like them. It's going to be sort of like inclusivity, just as we talked about as the SDG goal, the fourth SDG goal, which is promoting equality and rather quality education. Now, panel, at the end of it all, I see that a world that we present is a world which is going to better suit the problem, and at the end of it all, their world does not actually suit the problem. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we are seeing that there are a lot of problems that we are facing in the house today. So the team affirmers today come and tell us that actually it is better we go with open access models rather than copyright protection. But we are here today to tell you that actually we need to go with a copyright protection. And before I go back into rebuttals and all things, we should understand that here we have been talking about, on our side, we have been talking about protecting the intellectual property of an individual. We have been talking about quality, where this side, that affirmative side actually come and tell us that they have quality in their open access modules. But here we are telling you actually that there is no quality in the open access modules, because we are seeing that actually in the statistics that we had, ladies and gentlemen, we are seeing that within 10 years period, we have seen that the open access models are have actually risen from 18, ladies and gentlemen, to almost 1,000. So how can you tell me that actually something productive can rise within a short period of time in that large extent, ladies and gentlemen? We are seeing that actually these guys are not after quality, but these guys are actually after producing a lot of information that is actually sent out into to the people around them. And ladies and gentlemen, we are seeing that actually, ladies and gentlemen, here they come and tell us that actually there is nothing like that the access of people from kids from like a period can access the copyright information that we have. But here, ladies and gentlemen, we are clearly telling you that actually they can access, because we are seeing that the government is literally buying books. These
these books that we other schools that are rich are affording them. They are buying them and sending out to those schools, ladies and gentlemen, and they are clearly written, not for sale. So clearly we are seeing that if the government literally can also come up and buy those books that have copyright protections and send them to those schools, so that we can see that there's no point that you can tell us that those kids cannot access those books, because we are seeing that actually they are being bought by the government, because actually the government believes that they actually have quality in them. And ladies and gentlemen, we talked about protecting intellectual property of an individual. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to see that actually these people who come up with this research actually take in their time to do the research, ladies and gentlemen. So they need to protect them, ladies and gentlemen, because the principle says that one has a right on how their work has to be published or sent out to sell their work, ladies and gentlemen. So they have all the right to see whether their work goes to someone, how their work is distributed or not. And ladies and gentlemen, the House today, in the affirmative, they have actually showed us that they are not going to protect that right, because I am actually writing this information. This information is my knowledge and research. Then how are you going to pay me after giving me the knowledge? Because we are seeing that actually I am benefiting the country and I'm not in any way benefiting, ladies and gentlemen. They came here and told us that ladies and gentlemen, we came here and actually gave them the point of quality, and we are seeing that the peer review actually, these guys actually go through a lot of processes in order to produce the quality. We are seeing that actually in order for someone to publish something out, they have to go through different processes. And we told them actually that these open access models are actually shifting the cost burden from the readers or the guys getting the information to the authors, ladies and gentlemen, because we are seeing that me who has done my research, I have invested all my time and all my money, and I'm not gaining anything, and the reader is coming to access my knowledge for free. What am I doing? Because we are in Uganda and we are seeing that our economy is bad. I have to live, I have to have the good standard of living in order for our country to reach in the developed level, ladies and gentlemen. So we need to understand that actually these access models are not helping us in any way. We need to go for the traditional copyrights, because we are seeing that actually the authors are going to benefit in it, because the money that they are using, they are actually going to be refunded back through the readers or the researchers who are going to subscribe or download them. Thank you.
This is the High School Crossfire. We'll be back in a minute. This is the High School Crossfire. Welcome back.
You should answer yes or no. Is open access mandatory for all academic fields?
We did not say it was mandatory.
It's okay. Do all open access platforms have strong peer review standards?
Reputable ones.
Yes or no?
Reputable ones.
Can open access models guarantee protection from misuse?
That's why we have standards.
Is the peer review process more established in traditional publishing?
That's why we are trying to put in more money during public funding.
Right, you may take your leave. So, honorable judges, in today's debate that states, this House believes that academic work and research should be published under open access models rather than traditional copyright protections. They admit that open access does not always fit all disciplines. That makes their model less adaptable than ours. They concede that some open access platforms lack strong peer review. This opens the door to lower quality research and misinformation, a serious risk in their model. They fail to show how open access protects against misuse, while traditional copyright provides strong legal safeguards for researchers' intellectual property. They acknowledge that traditional models have stronger and more consistent peer review, because in academia, quality is never sacrificed for access. In conclusion, honorable judges, traditional copyright remains the most sustainable model for protecting intellectual rights, funding quality control, and promoting academic in work and research. They also say that when they were asked whether open access is mandatory for all academic fields, it proves that it is not, which makes them admit that open access does not always fit all disciplines. That makes their model less adaptable than ours. Our model, the traditional copyright, is always sustainable and is suitable for protecting intellectual rights, funding quality control, and promoting academic excellence. It's also in our model, corporates requires to pay for access regardless whether it's an institution. I choose to rest my case.
Resolved, this House believes that academic work and research should be published under open access models rather than traditional copyright protections. Dear Speaker, I'm going to ask you a set of questions which are close-ended and they require a simple logical answer. It may not be a yes or no. So, do you concur with our parameters?
No.
You don't concur with our parameters. So, do you believe in strength of number?
Yes.
Good. Don't you think it is necessary for there to be information revolutionization?
Yes.
Good. Don't you think knowledge imbalance is a big problem?
No.
Okay. Are you saying that all open access journals lack credible peer reviews?
Not all of them, but some.
Okay. Are you aware we talked about vetting mechanisms?
Yes.
Do you think Makerere University would let information go to the public without it meeting the standard?
Pardon?
Do you think Makerere University would allow information to be given to its students without it meeting the standards?
Probably.
Okay. So, are you aware that reputable open access journals have standards?
Yes.
Is information relevant when hidden behind paywalls?
Beg your pardon?
Is information relevant when hidden behind paywalls and subscription fees?
Not in all cases.
All right. Do you believe it's ethically acceptable for private companies to profit from blocking public access to life-saving research?
No.
Okay. So, don't you think it's the public's right to actually get? So, what do we get from Team Negators? Team Negators is a team that believes in they believe in standard. But then again, they acknowledge the fact that knowledge imbalance is a problem. And in their current status quo, they clearly accept the fact that corporate publishing is around. And as a matter of fact, in their world, knowledge imbalance is what they're actually trying to premiere. Now, that's something that we are trying to solve as a big problem. Why? One, in our parameters, we clearly came here and we showed you that we're actually talking about public-funded academic research. That is the one which make open access. Because it's the public's right, we talked about a social contract theory where we said that individuals pay taxes for good social services. And part of the social services, and we invest their money in, the government puts their money into the research. So we do not think it's ethically acceptable for someone to invest their money in paying taxes and again pay money for the same work that they paid for. Something that they should come here and clarify on, or if other failed on today's debate. Two, they bring up a point of misinformation, but we bring them to them a point of vetting mechanism. Something we came here and sang about, and I think they failed to understand. Well, we showed them that there are reputable open access journals, like the Makerere University open journals actually have standards for information to reach there. Two, there are points that have not attacked because we showed them that one, for a matter of fact, science or education is not only static. We believe information can be revolutionized, and it can only be revolutionized when actually a lot of minds coming out. What they talk about is only favors one side of people and leaves a marginalized group of people, a big bulk of people who fail to actually meet the financial requirements needed for good information. This is why we still have people who live in those areas and don't have good information because they don't have the money. Now, what we are trying to fight for is actually information for all and standard information for all. Thank you so much. I beg to rest my case.
I'll start by thanking the debaters for staging a fair debate and maybe to acknowledge a few commendations here and there. Special recognition to the second speakers and then the third affirmative. So, in education, quality should never be exchanged for access. That's the negative case. The affirmative case is knowledge should not be a luxury. Knowledge should be a shared resource. Now, this now takes us to to answer very critical questions of the debate. But I also want to submit my disappointment on the way teams have decided to interpret this motion. Trying to create a policy in a value debate could be quite detrimental to the discussion, because at the end of the day, a value debate tends to answer the question of why should something be done, or why is this like this, why is that like that, not basically of how can this be addressed. So this being a value debate, Team Affirmative should know that it was really so radical for them to come and over-limit this debate to specifically publicly funded academic work, because at the end of the day, the question of the debate is, should academic work and research be published under open access or not? So when you come and create a model in which you want to kind of bias the debate to only exist under certain conditions, then it's kind of radical within a value debate, because we have to evaluate what is already on ground, not specifically to create a model in which what we want, what we are evaluating can exist. But nonetheless, we have to submit basing on what you people have provided. I want to commend the second negator for staging quite good arguments, but I also want you to know that after staging arguments, it is very important for you to go on and explain and create an effect of those arguments. Things to do with the principle of authorship, which you called authoritarianism. It is the principle of authorship that you are trying to drive. I think these are very good. And then you talk of the need to protect intellectual property and so on, but we don't get the answers to questions such as, now why is it important for us to protect the intellectual property? Because at the end of the day, that would now be the reason as to why it is better for us to use the traditional copyright protection. So if you do not go to that extent, then you simply just kind of tell us, repeat the motion without instead justifying the motion. So you simply tell us that we need to protect the copyright. But then, things to do with substandard information, which I think was a major clash. Now I'm going into the discussion of your debate. I find three clash points. One, quality versus quantity, innovativeness, and then inclusivity. Now, on the issue to deal with the quality versus quantity, I feel like Team Negative was good enough at staging a world where quality really exists and trying to justify that if there is copyright, then there is minimal substandardization of the information. Now, at that point, after we have understood that, we now need to understand also, to make your argument carry much more value, what is the effect of substandard information into the society? Because if you just tell us substandard information, now we are left to just justify where does quality exist more, but we also need to know the effect of that substandard information. But I also want to appreciate Affirmative for reacting to this very fast and trying to tell us that now there are kind of vetting mechanisms and so on within institutions. Even these open access models still have certain standards that they say. So at the end of the day, we are only fronting for quantity that now provides quality in abundance to each and every one. Also tell you that the matter of fact that there is more funding that comes and easy kind of research that is created for these people, they are also incentivized to do more research because they get recognitions and so on, things to do with Dr. Wang's appreciation during the COVID-19 period. So these kind of motivate them. I feel like innovativeness now exists on either side. But straight on to the marks, I feel like on issues to deal with the quality that comes with the quantity on Affirmative is a stronger point than us merely taking up the need for quality within education. Staged on the problem that they tell you that there is knowledge imbalance and inaccessibility to quality information throughout society. These are the marks. I give Team Affirmative 16 for style. I give Team Negative 15 because of certain issues to deal with your time management, issues to deal with your speaker role execution. Fourth speaker, I think you can do better. Go back and practice the fourth speaker role. You have 2 minutes of cross-examination and 2 minutes for reply speech. It is very bad for you to ask questions for 30 seconds and move away. Then on strategy, I give both teams 24 because I feel like because people fail to appreciate the strategies needed for this motion burden, it was like a wash, but on issues to deal with content and justifying the relevance within this debate, whatever was submitted, Team Affirmative still ranks above Team Negative with 24 for affirmative and 23 for negative, making a total of 62 for negative and 64 for affirmative, and according to me, the debate goes to the affirmative team. Thank you.
And debate is won and lost in argumentation. This resolution was not a policy resolution per se. It was as plain as, should authors who deal with academic research and works publish their work on copyrighted sites or on open sites? As plain as that. Now, the problem with getting value debates like those ones, and you complicate them with policies and what you might choose to call a parameter, is you find yourself trying to justify plans, strategies that this debate does not necessarily call for. So, in a debate like this one, you can't start calling for things like, we are going to use government to pay for works, and because it is government that has paid for these works, citizens to access these works, the government has used their taxes and therefore it is already paid for. You are running away from the spirit of the debate. One, you have overly limited that debate, but also you're creating a lot of layers of complications of policies that come in unnecessarily in a value debate. So to me, that was a wrong strategy to the affirmative team. To the negative team, I feel like I should punish you them all for not arguing against such a strategy. The moment those things surface in the debate, they should be challenged in first speech. Fast forward, the arguments that surfaced in today's debate is one, peer review. In which world do we effectively peer review work? Number two, quality versus quantity. Number three, the incentive of an author. Number four, access of work. Now, I feel on peer review, and I will relate to why I have a problem with the affirmative team strategy. When negative team says that under copyrighted sites, you are subjected to peer review before you can put out your work. All that affirmative team tells you is that, see, we have institutions like Makerere and that have enough personal, technical, whatever, that will peer review our work. They are going back to our plan. So, one, it doesn't come off as a good rebuttal, but also not challenging it would make it seem off as a good argument against the negative team. Quality versus quantity as against accessibility. I don't know why debaters don't, sorry to say, I don't know if you do it or if you struggle. I don't know. I can't find a better word but to say I don't know why you don't think critically. Quality versus content. This debate, the negative team, you're overly saying that when we open it, we have a lot of quality, a lot of content, quantity over quality, right? And you just let it slide under the rug, as if part of that quality is not in the quantity that is available. I don't like to make personal comments, but speaker number 4, negative team, you need to pull up your socks, right? You need to cross-examine for 2 minutes. Debate is a fight. You need to think through a question. If someone asks you, are you agreeing to our parameters? First of all, what were their parameters? Agreeing to them, what does it cost my case? Think through before you give an answer. If they're asking you a lot of technical things and you're here and there, you say it depends. You don't give an answer that supports what your 3 speakers have been arguing about. So I felt that you have a lot of room to improve and you can exploit it. That being the case, I gave 14, both of you for style, 23 to the affirmative team for 24 to the affirmative team for strategy, 23 to the negative team, 28 to the affirmative team for content, 27 to the negative team, 66, 64.
Yeah, thank you. I will not really repeat what the judges said. I also just want to precaution the debaters that debate while pocketing. please, you kill your style. Okay? That is mostly on the side of negative. Number two, let's increase the argument, like let's increase the engagement on either cases. For example, if I'm to ask team affirmative, please team affirmative, I'm talking to you. If I'm to ask team affirmative, which response do you have for the issue of the protection of the intellectual property rights that the authors have? So now should we go with accessibility at the expense of the rights that a person is actually coming up? Okay, even if you're saying that you decide the government is paying for the research and what of the publishers and whatsoever, even you're having authors. So should accessibility, should the publishing, should the circulation of the books come at the expense of the IP or of the copyright that is owned by these publishers? That is a question that you also need to answer on another day. But then also to team negative. When these people are telling you that, you see now, if you're talking about copyright, it is discriminative in nature. What about a person in Nakapiripiriti that is not able to access? But let me tell you this. Why do people think that where there is copyright, automatically there is a limitation on accessibility? Then why do you think in copyright, we are having things like permission, fair use, and recognition? You get? So also now the argument that you come up and actually consider that, you see, but we are having the government actually going on to give out these books. Why don't you just ask, okay, now, should the intellectual property of the authors also now come at the expense of the circulation? Since you are now after accessibility, should this accessibility come at the expense of a person that is actually putting in their time to go ahead and make this research, put it in writing, and actually make the payment for it? So personally, by the way, on another day, this could be a debate that I could actually give team negative, reliably. Mostly with the argument that comes from, with the limitation of the parameters that comes from this side. But then also do not concede, just as one of the judges told you. If you feel the parameters are ambiguous or the parameters are limiting you, it is not said with team negative, you have a burden of coming and you set new parameters as long as you're able to justify to the judges why you don't take up the parameters that are coming from this side. Otherwise, when you consider the parameters, it means that every argument that you give should be confined to the parameters they have set. Meaning if you give any argument outside those parameters, it means that is very wrong on your side. For the style, I give you 15, I give you 14. Strategy, I give you 26, I give you 25. Content, I give you 27, I also give you 27 this side, making a total of 68 for affirmative and a total of 66 for team negative. So it is the unanimous judgment of 3/3 that team affirmative takes it. Thank you so much.